I've been working my way up to it for quite some time now, and it is finally time to start work on my split top Roubo style workbench.
The Wood Night is sponsored by I Would Like.
In this episode, we're not actually going to do any construction. It's going to be split over multiple episodes, videos, because it is quite a large undertaking. It's probably no more complex than any piece of furniture, but just the scale and weight of it makes it slow, so I may as well break it down into multiple episodes so that I can publish regular content and make it a bit easier for people to follow along. So this episode is going to be more about the materials used and the design. So let's start with the materials. I'm going to make mine out of hardwood, but you don't have to. Typically, these sort of workbenches are made of either hardwoods or softwoods, and either is just fine. Typically it would be made from construction pine, so in the US at 2x4, in Australia 90x45. And because of the sheer size of it and the volume, it weighs a lot anyway. Having it cheap is better than not having it at all. Why am I going for hardwood? Because at least in the eastern side of Australia, you can get construction hardwood, construction grade hardwood, for not that much more. So it works out for the timber, I'll be paying about 300 Australian dollars. If I worked out the price for pine, I was looking at about 200-ish anyway. So a relatively small increase in price that is actually going to net me a more substantial weight workbench, and it's going to look prettier. I'm a little bit vain, so that's fine by me. So what is construction grade timber? In this case, it's either called Victorian ash or Tassie oak. They're the same stuff. It's a collection of 3 different trees. Tassie oak has 3, Vic ash has 2 of them. What separates it from furniture grade timber is the veins, or the sap veins and that sort of stuff, the various knot inclusions. Now, in a lot of cases, this would actually make a really pretty piece if you filled that with epoxy and sort of a rustic approach for furniture. However, a lot of those problems go away when you remember we're laminating this together. So if we have a bit of a close look at the timber, we can see some of these sap inclusions and various bark inclusions, and it may not be the best piece, but there is generally one pretty good edge. So this one, the faces of it aren't the worst, they're not the best. This might go in the middle of the slabs. This one's great, so that might be an end piece. And we can go through and pick and choose which pieces look the best. And because there will be 2 slabs, because it's a split top, well, the better stuff can all go onto the front slab, and the not quite as good stuff can go onto the back slab.
So this is going to be a pretty quick tour of the workbench design because, to be honest, we're going to make it, so we probably don't need to go into too much of it in this video. So what we're looking at is a fairly standard Roubo style workbench. It measures about 600mm across and about 1900mm long. It's broken into 2 slabs and a divider. 2 slabs will be identical in thickness and width and length, but there'll be some features on one, primarily the front slab, that won't be on the back slab. This divider here is so that we can store tools in it, but we can also remove it so that we can get good clamping capabilities all over the bench, because we can put a clamp right in the middle. Additionally, if we flip this stop over, we'll be able to get it above the workbench by about 1 inch, which will give us a great planing stop. If we take off the top, we can see the top is attached to the base via these nice big chunky tenons. These will be about 35mm tall. And they won't get glued on, they'll just be sitting on the tenons, and there'll be some lag screws going up through this stretcher and this stretcher here into the slabs. This will provide more than enough power to hold it down because it's very heavy slabs. You can also see that there is a sliding deadman that rides on a track, which will be a 45-degree piece of hardwood. Sliding deadman goes into the top here. There will be a groove running between the two front legs. Sliding deadman provides a way to secure long work pieces, first in the leg vise and then hold it up here so it doesn't sag and twist and all of that. We'll get rid of the top, we'll get rid of the sliding deadman as well as the slide, and we can see that we've got this shelf here which will be a whole bunch of shiplapped panels. I may not get to that in this build series, we'll see how we go. I haven't modelled it yet, but there will be a recess or a rabbet on all of these lower apron pieces that the shiplap panels will sit in. They won't be glued in, they won't be screwed in, they'll just sit there. These two end assemblies, so this the two legs and the two short stretches and the matching one at the other end will be glued together, but these long aprons won't be. They'll be cinched together with bench bolt hardware. They will still, however, have a tenon that goes into the legs here and here. The final thing to look at is this leg vise here. It'll feature a wooden screw, wooden nut that will be screwed onto the back of the leg, a hub for turning it, and that itself will have a handle, which I haven't modelled yet. On the vise chop, we'll have an aluminium garter, which will hold the hub and screw to the vise chop. And down below you can see this somewhat irregular parallel guide mechanism. So this will have a linear shaft, which is this guy here, a linear bearing, which is about 80mm long, and a shaft holder. This is to replace the pin board that is most common on Roubo style workbenches, hopefully so that you don't need to adjust the pin constantly for different widths, but we'll see how that plays out over time. The last thing to look at is this H&T Gordon tail vise. This will receive a fairly hefty mortise, which the vise will sit in. Then there is a shallower mortise which will have a cap piece that hides the majority of the vise mechanism except for where this brass dog slides up and down. Then there'll just be the handle that sticks out the end.
The thing that's really nice about this construction grade Tassie oak, or hardwood, whatever you want to call it, is that it comes in all the by 45 dimensions. So it would be like 2x stock in the US. So this comes in 90 by 45, and that's what I've bought. There's also 140 by 45, 190 by 45, and I think it's 240 by 45. So that might be really good for a vise, for example. But it also means that you can follow along with this build and the plans, which will be coming, and just substitute in 90 by 45 pine, and you'll get pretty much the exact same bench. The other thing to talk about is the hardware that's going to be used. For the leg vise, I'm going to make the screw myself using the Beal threader kit, which I used to make my Moxon vise. And for the parallel mechanism on that, rather than using the standard parallel guide, I'm going to be using some hardened shaft, a bearing, which I think is a L20 LUU or something like that. I'll have, when we get to the vise, I'll have links to where I bought this as well as the model number so you can buy it elsewhere. A little holder for that, so shaft holder. For the tail vise, I'm going to be using a H&T Gordon tail vise. This was provided to me by Pete. He had one that he was not using, so he very generously sent that my way. And this is going to be a knockdown bench in the sense that the frame won't be glued into the top and the frame will come apart as well. So the two short sides will be glued together, but the long sides will be knocked down. And in a previous episode, I made this knockdown hardware from a piece of aluminium bar stock, and that makes the nuts, and then the bolts will tie that all together. Now, I will obviously cover these all in more detail in the relevant episodes, but at least you sort of know what hardware we're going to be using ahead of time. So there will be plans. The plans won't be free, but they won't be horribly expensive. If you don't want to buy my plans, that's fine. It's more to help support the show and what I do. There are some fantastic plans available from George Woodshop or the Wood Whisperer or Jay Bates, or if you just want free plans, Benchcrafters supply some that this bench has a lot of similarities with. So kind of pick and choose whatever you want. You should be able to build a workbench from their plans and my videos and get something that is appropriate for you. So my plans are not currently available. They will be before the conclusion of this series. There's still a few things I need to iron out around the joinery, but the top slabs where I can start laminating them now, they're not going to change, so I don't need to wait until my plans are 100% finalised. Thanks for watching.